Welcome back to the Waterboy Sports Show. I'm your host, Frankie. The guy over there is Kyle, the other host. And we have a very special guest today, a very special episode with Darrien Starling, former UTSA cornerback. Prior to that, he was just a monster in high school. Broke up 12 passes, forced a pair of fumbles to help lead his team to a 12-2 record in the fourth round of the state playoffs. After that, he played in the UTSA inaugural season under Coach Larry Coker, where UTSA actually set an attendance record at 56,743 for the highest attended game of the NCAA Division I FPS startup program. He also played his sophomore and junior year at UTSA and had a bunch of highlights, including a season-high 4 stops in the home opener against number 13 Oklahoma State. He's currently the host of his YouTube channel, his very own YouTube channel called Darrien Starling. And he's also the host of the podcast Roadrunners Unfiltered. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Darrien Starling. You like that?
I appreciate the intro.
I prepared a lot for that.
Yeah, I have not heard my football stats in a while.
Well, clip it and ship it, man.
They rob me every time, right? So I'm assuming you got some of this from the UTSA website, and they screw me every single time. So they leave.
How about you set the record straight here? How about that?
Yeah. So, and I'm only doing this because I never talk about my football career. So it's funny to hear it. It's been so long. I feel like an old ass guy now. So they always leave off that in high school, at corner, I had interceptions. So I had 5 interceptions in high school. They never put in the thing, which whenever I signed here, I used to always be pissed off about because they would never bring it up. And then the way they have it in my profile, it makes it seem like I only played 2 seasons, but I actually played all 4 seasons, and I was a starter all 4 seasons. And they don't ever say that I caught the first interception in UTSA football history.
No way. Okay.
I didn't expect this to be all accurate, and I'm glad you cleared that up. So set the record straight here. UTSA, you got to put some more respect on my man Darrien Starling's name.
And I intern for those guys. That's the thing that pisses me off. I'm just giving them shit, though. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Speaking of interns, we definitely need a producer intern here so you can get all the facts straight for our next guest. But we'll definitely put some notes down next to your name. So the next time we have you on, we will be absolutely sure to highlight all those things that you just talked about.
I kid. Don't take me serious.
Oh, man.
Well, how was everybody's weeks?
Pretty uneventful, honestly. Just watch a lot of football, and that's about it.
I didn't do much at all. Now I think about it. I celebrated my wife's birthday. So
happy birthday!
I put on a freaking blazer for the first time in a while.
Ooh,
that's right. So
what kind of plans did you have? Did you do the whole shebang? Roll out the red carpet?
Sorta. I took her to True Lux. If you don't know that place, it's a really, really nice seafood place here in Austin. Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't bad.
Awesome. I had a pretty uneventful week, except for one thing, basically. Craziest thing probably that's ever happened to me. So my girlfriend, she got these like snow pants because it's like out here in New York, it's been like snowing a little bit, but we could still get more. And she got some snow pants off of Amazon, like brand new packaged, plastic and everything. She put them on, and then she found in the pocket of the snow pants like this girl's ID, like expired New York ID card. It was in the pocket. We look up like the house address on the ID. It was some like house like 3.5 miles away from us. We're pretty damn close. And then we looked up the girl's name like on the internet, and it was just like there's only one thing about this girl, and it was a single link that had gone to an actor's page. This girl was an actress apparently, and the only thing that she had done as an actress was play a voice actor for a clown. And so basically,
I don't buy that.
It had a
This is cap.
recording. It had a recording of her doing a creepy clown voice. And so, like, basically, like, if you think of the clown from It, almost exactly like that. And so it was
That is the most peculiar thing I've ever heard.
extremely weird. And like, I took that ID and I threw it right down the trash chute, like never to be seen again. It's like I didn't even put it in the trash can, like right down the trash chute.
Like, how do you think that even happened? Like,
I don't know. I don't know. It was like a brand new pair of pants.
That's so weird. Somebody's watching you, man.
I might have to move. So.
You might have to, like countries.
Yeah. But yeah, we had the CFP championship last night. Crazy game. Unfortunately my pick streak was broken. Washington did not win. Michigan ended up coming out on top, 34-13.
Yeah, I did pick Michigan. I wasn't too surprised. What I was surprised with, though, is how dominant Michigan's defense looked against what was the number one offense in Washington and Michael Penix Jr. I don't know, man. Darrien, what did you think? Like, I was shocked. I think that was the main difference why it was such a wide open game, was just Michigan's defense.
Yeah, I think Michigan's defense definitely showed up. But honestly, if I'm being honest, I feel like Washington missed quite a few opportunities, in the red zone, right? They got to the red zone quite a bit, and they just weren't able to they weren't able to punch it in.
Yeah.
On a couple of occasions. So I think some of those play calls, you have Michael Penix you have Penix at quarterback, and you run on your first 3 downs or your first couple of downs to try to touchdown. What are we doing? We got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation there. Why would you do that, right? So I think that was a big issue. But I also think Michigan won the game up front. If you look at what their offensive line did in the first half to really score those 2 touchdowns, those 2 rushing touchdowns, they completely dominated Washington. Washington's linebackers were burying themselves almost every play because they were committing to every type of misdirection or anything that Michigan was throwing at them. And I think that right there exposed them quite a bit, which is why I think they started off with so much momentum, talking about Michigan. So, and then obviously, Washington defense did respond, and they kept it close throughout the game. But at the end of the day, if you can't punch the ball in the red zones, Michael Penix missed a couple of throws that are uncharacteristic, and can't do that stuff on the biggest stage, and that's why they lost, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seemed like the lights were a little bit too bright, and like compared to Michigan, Washington is not like considered, I guess, in my opinion, one of these like legacy programs. Michigan with a whole lot of talent, with these like big beefy guys up front that are handling all the battle down in the trenches. They were running the ball down their throats for like pretty much the entirety of the game. We had Donovan Edwards, who had 2 40+ yard runs that he broke loose, and then another big one from Blake Corum as well, and then another from Blake Corum too. And then you had, on top of that, Washington trying to run the ball when they have Penix Jr. out there, and I guess they were trying to get Dylan Johnson going a little bit, trying to get a little bit of momentum from him because he was coming off that injury. But obviously you want to air it out with that guy quarterback. And then the receivers couldn't catch as well. Obviously, he overthrew a little bit of it. And the receivers from Washington, even if the ball was catchable, they just weren't catching the ball.
Yeah. Darrien, every now and then you'll hear the sounds of New York in Kyle's background. So if you hear some ambulances, that's what that is. I thought one of the craziest things was like J.J. McCarthy only went for 10 for 18, 140 yards, but that's all he needed to do. Like, Michigan was just taking whatever Washington was giving him. The big difference here is that he had 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. In these big games, I think it's a turnover margin that really can decide a lot of these games. So Penix obviously threw 2 interceptions, and that ended up being the difference. But in a different world, like if Georgia won this game, do you think Georgia would have put up a better fight against Michigan, or is Michigan in a level on its own?
Michigan looked beatable to me.
Yeah.
They didn't look invincible, but I think who knows? Matchups can get crazy, so you never know. Georgia could have came in and beat the brakes off of them. You just never know.
Or what about even Texas? I feel like Texas looked like one of probably up there as like the most talented team in the college football playoffs, even though they did lose to Washington. What do you think? What do you think Texas would have done against maybe Michigan?
Like, I think personally, Texas had the number 3 rush defense in the country. I think they would have put up more of a fight against Michigan's run game, but I don't think UT's secondary would have been able to hang with JJ McCarthy and Michigan's passing offense. Michigan just looked like they were ready to play. Like, they just looked more ready. I could be wrong, but that's my take on it. I think they would have done better against the run defense, at least. Against the run,
Interestingly
enough. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think Texas would have put up a better fight than Washington did, just because listen. I think you can just look at the two teams and you can just tell that Michigan had way bigger guys up front than Washington did. So I think Texas would have been able to match them there. Mm-hmm. And to your point about the run defense, I think if they were able to slow down that run, and you make an offense one dimensional and make them have to pass, then you got a lot more of an interesting game. So I think the game would have been better if somebody else was there. But we're going to see stuff like this. We're going to see stuff like this happen more with the playoffs expanding this year.
Yeah. And we'll talk about more UT later, because they're on our naughty list right now as UTSA fans, but we'll get into that. With that being said, the draft order is set, making a lot of people speculate about who's going to go first, what team needs a quarterback. So you have Carolina Carolina Panthers, congratulations, you won the number 1 pick. However, it's going to Chicago. Number 2, you have Washington, and the 3rd, you have New England, all of which need quarterbacks, I think. Seems like Caleb Williams is going to be the first pick overall. But I don't know. What's your take, Darrien? How do you think the draft is going to play out, at least in the first few picks?
I think you got to go with Caleb Williams first. That to me is the obvious one. But then I don't know. Here's the thing about the drafts, in my opinion. There's always going to be some craziness, and you're always going to have teams that overreact to combine performances, right? So that's always going to be something to look out for. But I'm going to be interested to see where Jaden Daniels goes, because I think that dude is he's serious. I know there's a lot of hype about the kid from North Carolina. Then obviously Michael Penix. I think where is Atlanta going to be in this? Because
Atlanta is going to be at number 8 behind the Titans.
Interesting. Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see who they end up getting, because they need to address their quarterback spot too. So who knows where people will go. I'm sure the combine is going to shake a lot of stuff up, but you got some of your obvious ones. I think with Chicago, Chicago. Where's Chicago picking at? Did you say they're picking?
They have one, and I believe they have like another top
9.
10.
So they have 2 top 10 picks, actually.
That's crazy. Yeah, they're definitely going to get Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they somehow got Caleb Williams and find a way to trade to get Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I was just thinking that would be
nuts.
Absolutely crazy.
The Bears. I've always wanted to see him be good again. But definitely looking forward to that. Anyway, that's enough boring talk, Darrien. We want to pick your brain about college football here. More particularly, the UTSA roster, the offseason, what's going on with the transfer portal, what our outlook is looking like. Yeah. I guess first of all, I wanted to ask, like, what if you had to give a grade to UTSA's football team this season? What would you give it? What, A through F?
Yeah, I think I've done this on my show. I think I'll give them a B. B minus. And I guess I'll say B. I think, listen, I feel like the city of San Antonio and just the UTSA fans in general, we've gotten spoiled a little bit, because we won 2 consecutive conference titles, and
Yeah.
Frank was having almost perfect seasons back to back, and we had all this talent. We got guys, we're producing NFL guys year in and year out now, and that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I was talking about early, to start the season is, all right, when our season doesn't go perfect, where do we go from here? And I think we've seen a season that was not perfect, right? But can we still are we still capable of having successful seasons? And when I think about what happened, I think we definitely had a chance to really compete for an AAC title. The loss to Tulane was bad. There's no way to avoid that. It was just a shitty loss. That was a team that was beatable. I feel like we had the more talent on the field, but poor execution, poor play calling, and just some shocking performances from some of the guys was the reason we lost that game. But then we came back and we won a bowl game against a team that we should have beaten, Marshall. And that was the first bowl game in program history. And I think that right there to me still reeks, or that's still a successful season. We got 9 wins on the year with a bowl victory. Every single season isn't going to be perfect. This was not a perfect season, but I think it's still something that we can continue to build upon as we go forward. I think Coach Traylor is really bringing a winning culture to the program. With this, we win now. We expect success, right?
Right.
So I think whenever you get a program to that point to where supporters of the program are expecting us to do well, and we expect excellence year in, year out, I think you're going in the right direction. So I give them a B, but we got a lot to work on, obviously, going forward into the 2024 season.
Yeah. And speaking of like what we needed to work on, a lot of the stuff on my initial wish list had kind of gotten checked off, starting with in terms of like people we brought in, starting with the offensive line people that we had brought in from recruiting, from transfers. Let's just, I guess, break down the offseason acquisitions by, position. So interior offensive line, we had gotten and we can kind of give our grades. I'll read out the names and we can give out our grades here. Jonah Miller, 4-star from Santa Rosa Junior College in California. Briley Brown, 3-star from O'Connor High School. Davion Hurth, 3-star from Horn High School. And CJ James, which is a 3-star transfer from New Mexico. That rounds out the interior offensive line recruiting. We also have an offensive tackle, Joseph Ugu, 3-star from Paytau High School. Jalen Garth, originally a 4-star recruit transferring from Houston. And Kamar Missouri, an unrated transfer from Rutgers. So what are kind of your grades on that, or your thoughts about who we brought in to supplement, an offensive line that we had an injury revolving door, it almost seemed like, this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we lost our tackles, right? We had guys blocking the backside for our quarterback who weren't really, you can make a case that one or two of those guys were they even a D1 caliber, right? So I like the direction that we've went from a recruiting standpoint of what we've brought in. I think addressing the offensive line is going to be huge. I also really, really like the receiver pickups that we got. I think that one of those guys are going to be able to come in. I think the one from TCU, I think it's from TCU. He's going to be able to come right in and play. He's probably going to play next year. That to me is the big one that I was worried about. Of like, if you look at us this year, if you look at us offensively, we relied heavily on that 3-headed monster we had at running back, right?
Mm-hmm.
We relied on Joshua Cephas, but Devin McEwen, it took him a while to get going. But offensively, we couldn't beat man coverage on the outside. Our receivers were not consistently beating man coverage. And I feel like, in a conference like this with some of the teams that we're playing, we're going to have better receivers because we're going to be playing a lot of high-powered offenses. Right. So I think addressing that was a huge one for me. I also am waiting to see, they have to get a quarterback. They have to bring a quarterback in every signing period. And that's what I'm waiting to see the most. to be honest with you, because with Frank leaving, obviously we've seen Owen McCown and we've seen Ed Lee Marburger in small cameos this year, and Owen McCown did a good job in leading us to our bowl victory. But to me, he did not show enough for me to say, hey, he's going to be our guy next year that's going to lead the team. I still need to see more from him, but I would like for them to bring in a veteran guy. We offered the Pavia guy, Pavia, I think his last name is Pavia from New Mexico State. He put up some really good numbers. I watched some tape of him recently. He's talented. I think he can come in and really push for that starting job. But I want to see a quarterback battle going into next year, and whoever wins that battle, I want whoever wins it to actually go through some adversity in camp. Because here the way I see it is McCown already knows how to beat out Marburger for a job because he's done it basically.
Right.
What is it going to look like if another veteran come in there? Is he going to be able to beat that veteran out, like that guy with some experience and some poise and stuff like that? So
they need some competition in there.
Absolutely.
Speaking of McCown, man, it was exciting to see Josh McCown in the stands wearing a little Roadrunners beanie. I loved watching that. Took a screenshot of it, made it my wallpaper. But I think we just kind of glossed over Jonah Miller, this new O-lineman that we got. He's actually a 4-star recruit. He's 6'7", 285 right now. I can't even imagine being that size coming out of high school or whatever. But regardless of what quarterback we get, we're definitely going to need a lot of help at the O-line. So I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far. The thing that I was concerned with just throughout the season was our secondary. I mean, if you like our cornerbacks and safeties really in particular. What was it like? Army didn't they? How many yards did Army put up against us? In the passing game, like
Can't
that should
remember
never
the
happen.
exact number, but yeah, exactly. You're right. The secondary was a big deal, and obviously we have a couple of return guys who are guys returning who are going to be in the secondary, like Zay Frazier in particular, who just got to be able to play like midseason this year after he got cleared. But we did bring in some interesting guys for safety prospects. Kenyon Kelly, namely, being the main one that I liked a lot. He was originally a 4-star when he committed to us. He's now a 3-star. I guess his high school and Denison High School had probably an off season or something like that. But we also brought in a 3-star Elijah Newell from Momel High School. And just today, it was breaking today, probably about an hour ago, Jamarius Lewis, who was originally a 3-star recruit, he's transferring from New Mexico. He had flipped today his commitment from Southern Miss to UTSA. And within his 2 seasons in New Mexico, he recorded 63 tackles and 3 interceptions, and he was their second highest rated player on defense last year per PFF.
That's awesome.
So it looks like we're getting the help we need, at least from the safety perspective. I'm hoping a lot of these, because we have a lot of receivers. I think at this point, with the people we're bringing in, people
you
returning,
think we're going to convert them?
I think we might convert a lot of these, or not a lot of these, but a few of these at least, because at the end of the day, we depends to see when JT Clark is going to come back, if he does at all. He just had surgery recently. We've got, McEwen, McCoy. We've got David Amador, who looked great in the bowl game. Like every time, I swear to God, every time David Amador touches the ball, he extends it for a big play. Like it's a highlight play every single time.
Yeah.
So we've got guys, and of course we've got this guy from TCU coming in. He was originally a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, only recorded at TCU 2 receptions for 10 yards. Got a transfer from Texas Tech, JJ Sparkman, who's a 3-star, and then another guy out of high school in Florida who's a 3-star coming in. So a lot of receiver prospects. So it seems like the key positions aside from quarterback that were on my wish list and a lot of other people's wish lists, seems like we're addressing those.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited to have a good secondary, like I said. This is kind of a hot topic, though. I don't know, Darrien, if you heard much about like Zachary Franklin last season. Apparently it came out later in the season that he was, like, the coach said that he wasn't even on the team. I think Lane Kiffin said that he wasn't even on the team anymore. Technically, he might have a year left of eligibility. You think UTSA might go after that if he does, or do you think his collegiate career is done?
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to some guys about that a few weeks ago about his situation, and a lot of folks are speculating that he's done.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Listen, I'll tell you this: I'd love to have him if I'm just
Oh,
being completely honest.
absolutely.
He's an incredible talent. He broke every record known to
Yep.
man at
Yep.
UTSA. It would be great for him to come back and put in the shift for us. But who knows what his situation is going to be now? I think I remember right after that game, they asked Lane Kiffin about that. I remember whenever he had said it that night, after in the post game when they asked him about it, and whenever a coach responds like that, to me it tarnishes the reputation of the player.
Yep.
Whenever you look at Zachary Franklin, I think, and it just kind of goes back to my NIL spiel that I've been on for the last few weeks on who are really advising these guys. And I
Oh,
talked to
we'll get into that. Trust me, we'll get into that.
yeah, it's like he went there and it didn't work out right. It would be great if he'd be able to come back to us, but there's also a camp that says, you know what, like I don't know if we need him back. It's like
Yeah.
maybe we should go with some of our younger guys and some of the guys that we're bringing in, and not just kind of bring this guy who left us. Like
Yeah.
whenever you think about a locker room, and I've been in those locker rooms when guys quit and when guys don't show up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Teammates take that personal, coaches take that personal, and who knows? I'm sure there are some guys who are in that locker room who will love him back, but I'm sure there's also some guys in that locker room who are like, dude, you elected to leave us for another team, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll move on.
Yeah, and so talking about like the receiver room, obviously there's so much competition in there. Week one, who would you kind of have as your two wideouts in your slot to start out with, if you were to be a betting man right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd imagine both of the guys from Tech and TCU are probably going to get some burn. Obviously, I think Amador needs to get some looks. Devin McEwen is certainly a player who is going to be there. Who knows what Chris Carpenter is going to be able to do? I think he still has another year. I expected him to actually get into the lineup this year, but it was kind of surprising to me that he didn't get that many opportunities and he was sort of relegated to being a return man. I'm hoping JT Clark will eventually. I'm sure he won't be there because he had to have another surgery. I'm sure he won't be there in week one, but I'd hope that he'd be able to come back at some point. So I don't know. It's real early to tell. We'll see. What spring ball looks like, and see who does some things. But I know that Devin McEwen is going to be a guy that we're going to rely on next year for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing too. I was just looking through these recruits that we have on this list. We got a punter. That's pretty cool. We're losing Lucas Dean, who I guess declared for the NFL, which is awesome.
But we
I
got
actually
another
met
Aussie.
him, another Aussie to replace the Aussie, the man down under. I met Lucas Dean at one of Jeff Traylor's like radio shows. He's a cool guy. Definitely one of those bigger guys, those big punters. He was awesome. But yeah, that's another one that we got. I mean, I don't know. I guess kind of going back to like giving a grade. I mean, what would you give a grade so far to the work we've done in the transfer portal?
For me, here's the way I look at this, right? Like, and I'll just use like the entire signing class that we've had. Like, so I'm gonna like group in some of the guys that we got out of high school too.
Mm-hmm.
The way I look at this, a lot of folks look at, well, how many stars was someone? Like, what was the average star count, right? To me, none of that shit matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we see 5 stars come into programs and can't do fuck all. Like, that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
I remember there were some 4 stars that came into UTSA when I was there who were cornerbacks, and at the time they were like, "Oh, this person's gonna come in and take your spot," and they ended up not taking their spot. They ended up leaving the program because they weren't.
Attaboy, Darrien.
No.
Spot,
it has nothing to do with me. Like, it has more to do with like, the star. There's with those stars, there's expectations that come with that, right?
Right.
And sometimes some guys do live up to it. Like I'll tell you, one of my good friends, Bennett Okacha, whenever he was like a 4-star recruit or whatever, he was someone who lived up to that. When he came in, he was really good. So anyway, it's a long way to say that I am satisfied with what we've brought in because we've addressed needs. That to me is what's most important about a recruiting class. If we can address the holes properly, that we're of players we're losing, we're going to be good. There was one guy you brought up earlier, Elijah Newell, who's one of the recruits that we're bringing in, and that to me, and he's only a 3-star or something like that, but that to me was such a crucial pickup, because if you look at the tape on him, he plays a specific type of safety. He plays like a dog safety, right? He doesn't play up high. He plays near the line of scrimmage, and he's really good at supporting, stopping the run, right? But he's also good at dropping into those underneath zones. And he caught, I think, like 9 interceptions, and they were all in those underneath curl to flat zones where he's playing so underneath coverage. And when you look at what hole we're trying to fill there, well, that means if you look at the player that we're trying to fill Rashad Wisdom's role, right?
Yeah.
Now, Wisdom was versatile enough to play dog and then go up to high safety and things like that. What they're anticipating is we may not have a player that can come in and be as versatile as Wisdom. So we're going to get this player with this specific skill set that we could probably use early if he put some weight on. So I think we did some good things in terms of the guys we brought in. I just think we need to definitely address that quarterback position. And
man. Yeah, it's a quarterback for me. That's what I'm worried about. It seems like every day you see quarterbacks basically getting out of the transfer portal. They declare somewhere. And one of the last guys is a guy you mentioned earlier, Diego Pavia, out of New Mexico State. It was rumored that, not rumored, but it was reported that I think he was on campus not too long ago. And then I guess he went to Texas State's campus a few days after. But I think that's one of our, not last chances, but I would like to see Diego Pavia in a Roadrunner uniform, especially to get the best out of McCown. Because like we said earlier, I'm a big believer, these guys need to compete. And if McCown doesn't have a real threat to his position, we're not going to get the best out of him. And we've already seen glimmers of I'll say greatness, the way he can zip a ball. Frank Harris, he had to time passes differently than other quarterbacks would, but McCown can just zip it. He's got a cannon in his arm, and he's got mobility. He's really quick. I'm pretty concerned about the quarterback position, honestly. You said earlier we've been spoiled, and we've definitely been spoiled by Frank Harris for the last several years.
Yeah, and obviously McCown is going to have the weapons with us getting so many receivers. We're losing out on Frank Harris's running mate, Big O. He's moving on to his next chapter of his life. We're bringing in though a guy who is 6'6", 240, number 3 tight end in Texas, Nate Markowitz, another 3-star, but it looks like he's got the intangibles to be a really good go-to option at the tight end spot. And then of course that Aussie punter. Apparently he's a 3-star out of Pro Kick Australia. I don't even know how they rate that, but
I don't either, but I'll take it, man.
Obviously we have a lot of guys that are or a few key guys that are leaving. Trey Moore, the guy who must not be named, unfortunately. Cam Alexander going to Oregon, and I'd like to see us do a little bit more on the front 7 as well. Get a couple more rushers out there, linebackers as well to make up for some of that talent loss. Other than quarterback, Darrien, do you have anything specifically that you want to see addressed?
Yeah, I think obviously the cornerback position now is something that we have to address. I know we got Zay Frazier now is going to be eligible to play, but I think that's a position that we're going to lose a couple of guys. We obviously lost Cam Alexander, but I think Fortune is I think he was a senior. so he's not going to be there either. So yeah, we're just going to have to re-up there as well. But yeah, I'd say quarterback is my main concern. I think on the D line too. We did bring in a guy from SMU on the D line, so I think that is pivotal. But yeah, I'm worried about that safety position because it's such a hard position, and I know we've addressed it a bit, but it's just such a hard position to get right, man.
It is.
They're
It
the
is.
last line of defense. They have a huge responsibility, and we're losing we're losing a UTSA all-time great at safety. So we'll see.
And that Will Stein monster keeps rearing his ugly head, man. We keep hemorrhaging guys to Oregon, and every time I see Will Stein or Dan Lanning or somebody on TV, it's just like, oh, gosh, what could have been, But yeah, they got Cam Alexander pretty recently. And then the elephant in the room, Trey Moore committing to UT. UT is on my naughty list now. Was that a surprise to you that Trey Moore transferred?
Not at all. That's the thing with our new reality, I guess, with NIL is like that we're not going to be able to keep our best players, man. It's just this is going to happen every single year because I think according to JJ, he was talking about some of the numbers they were throwing at Cam Alexander. They were throwing like $200,000 around. They were throwing that number around of what he'll get paid next season, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Just imagine what Trey Moore is getting promised, and who knows if these guys are even going to deliver on these promises. All of it is speculative, right? Like they still have to go in. They have to market these players. There needs to be a use to have these players and all that type of stuff. Market with some of these businesses and things like that. So who knows if they'll actually get the money, but just the prospect of being able to get that type of money, as a college student who has nothing,
right?
A lot of guys going to take that. And my biggest thing on that too is like, I look at the Cam Alexander one, and that's the one that irks me the most. Trey Moore, I think, will 100%, even if he doesn't start, he's going to get heavy playing time at UT because defensive lines are all by committee now anyway. You gotta have 6 to 8 defensive lines if you're gonna have a really good one.
Why did Cam Alexander hurt you the most?
Yeah, he hurt me the most because I know how difficult it is to find comfortability as a corner in a system, right? Like I just think about my career. I had like 1.5 good seasons that I felt good about. My freshman season, I felt good about. My senior season, I felt good about. I didn't feel good about those two seasons in the middle. And a lot of that changes. Like I changed coaches within that time. So I think about the coach I had my freshman year and that situation. I think about what I had my senior year, and I liked those situations that I was in. I liked how I was playing. I like the coverages we were able to play with. It is so difficult at that position to find a home, to find a coordinator, to find coaches that it's going to benefit your style of play. And it is very hard to have good seasons at corner. The level of difficulty is freaking insane. And when you think about Tariq Woolen, who just got drafted, who made a Pro Bowl his rookie year, from UTSA, of course, there's going to be eyes at the corner position from NFL scouts at UTSA because of him. And then a couple years later, we have this guy, Cam Alexander, comes in. He's had an excellent season this year. I'm sure there are NFL scouts looking at him right now. And they're
going to be going to Oregon.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. He goes to Oregon. Here's my problem with it. He's already in the defensive system that tailors to his game. And he's been able to be successful. You don't know what the hell is going to happen whenever he gets to Oregon. Number one, he has to go through another position battle. It is not a guarantee that he's going to go there and start, number one.
Right.
Number two, are they going to play the type of defense that is suitable for what he's comfortable with? So you have all these different variables. Everything has to align out perfect. Now, I hope the kid goes up there and he does great and he goes on to have a great NFL career or something like that. But my issue with it is he was probably 100% going to get a shot at the league from UTSA.
Yep.
Why jeopardize that to get this short term,
Right.
financial gain? Which, like I said, I understand it's hard to turn down the type of money that he's probably being offered, but at the same time, if you go over there and don't win a starting job, then you're starting back at square one and you're screwed. You could potentially lose life-changing money.
Yep.
Exactly.
And it's like a lot of these young kids, like exactly what you said, they're exchanging, this long-term career and money for short-term gains. And you mentioned earlier, like, who's advising these kids? Because you're absolutely right that the NFL will find you. It doesn't matter where you go. The NFL will find you. And I mean, how many games did I watch this season where it was either like Spencer Burford on Monday Night Football saying, UTSA, or Tariq Woolen saying, UTSA on Monday Night Football. You're gonna get drafted, or at least you're gonna get onto an NFL team if you're talented. And all these variables that you mentioned, especially for a position like cornerback, it's just so much uncertainty. And it would have been awesome to see him in the league. I hope he still makes it if that's what he wants to do. But you're absolutely right that he probably would have made it just staying at UTSA.
Yeah. And since you have a little bit more insight into, I guess the talents that come and the struggles that come with being a cornerback, Zay Frazier, do you think he has the makings to kind of be that dog, that stud, coming out of that position?
He certainly does, but a lot of it just comes down to how comfortable will you be under those lights in front of all those people. And can you get a couple good games? I tell you, the thing about corner, man, it's all based on confidence and it's all based on rhythm. Once you have a good game, you just almost relax, right?
Mm-hmm.
But having that good game is going to be difficult because teams are going to challenge you, and how ready is someone mentally, right? Like, I think Zay Frazier has the physical abilities to be as good as any corner that's come through, but at the same time, is he going to have the mental makeup that's going to allow him to, he got beat on the play, let me forget about that and move on to the next one? That to me is one of the most difficult things to do at the position, because you got to be mentally there. So physically, yeah, I think he can be a phenomenal player, but just hopefully the stars align for him so he has all the tools that can put him in good position.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Frankie and I get that a little bit because we were cornerbacks in the intramural level.
Oh, if you got to bring it up, yeah, I had a few interceptions myself, but yeah, it was all intramurals and none of it really mattered.
I didn't have the counting stats, but I was it was still a lot.
Yeah, I had a few pick sixes and whatnot. No big deal.
Hey, it matters to me. I can't count them all. I still play a little bit of I joined some of the flag football leagues.
Oh, nice
in Austin.
Nice.
And I'll play for a season or two sometimes. So I count
Heck
all.
Yeah.
I
gotta get UTSA to write a webpage on me. I gotta make sure they get all my stats right.
Do you still got it when you play out there in Austin, or?
Yeah. I got a little clip I can show you. I can send you guys.
Heck yeah, man. So are you gonna suit up and possibly try out for the team as Darrien Starling, perhaps, if we need a cornerback position with a little mustache on and nobody knows?
Nah, you don't want me out there, man. I am not the same shape I used to be 10 years ago.
Yeah, I feel that. You and me both, man.
Yeah. I mean,
well, I think that's everything. What were you gonna say, Kyle? Go ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, that's everything we talked about for the off season. We want to learn a little bit about you. We talked, obviously you gave your thoughts on the NIL and everything. What was your journey like compared to how it is now with NIL and everything coming into play? How was your journey to UTSA with recruiting?
Yeah, man, I had an interesting journey, dude. I hustled to get my scholarship. So I went to John Tyler. It's called Tyler High now, but it's It's a powerhouse football school, basically in East Texas, and it is just really difficult to get on the field there, to be completely honest. And essentially, they're really big on seniority, especially at the cornerback position, because there's just great corners that come out of my high school all the time. So basically, my junior year, there were two Division I corners who had been starting since they were juniors. So I essentially had to wait. So I got in a little bit just because I wasn't too bad myself, but these guys were being recruited by some of the biggest schools in the state at the time. So I sort of had to wait my turn. So actually, so after that season of my junior year, I had no one looking at me, no recruits. So basically, I had a really good spring camp. UTSA came down and basically offered my entire team except me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like they offered like 6 guys on my team, and like they wouldn't even like talk to me. But there was a guy named Coach Ross. He never made it. He ended up getting fired before like the signing class came. But he was a recruiter that came down to Tyler to recruit me. But eventually, I was the only one that wanted to talk to him. All of the other guys on my team just didn't want to talk to him. I was the only one that wanted to talk to him. So he would often call me to try to talk to the other guys.
Oh my gosh.
That's what happened. So
that's wrong.
Yeah, it is. But at that time, I was just happy to talk to a college coach because I wasn't getting the looks at the time because I didn't have much film. But I went to a lot of camps that summer, and I won MVP at almost all of those camps. So I did start to create sort of a college following entering into my senior year. My senior year, I caught, I think we played Lufkin. Lufkin's a huge rival of ours, and they have a lot of D1 talent. So at the time, I think at that game, there probably was like there was probably like 10 to 11 Division I commits on the field between the two teams.
Wow.
So there was a lot of teams there. I had 2 interceptions that game. And right after that game is when UTSA offered me. So they were there to watch everybody else, not me.
That's awesome, man.
But they finally was like, you know what? Let's give this kid a shot. And then they offered me after the next game.
That's awesome.
And then so that's kind of how it went for me. I had a couple more offers that came in later. I almost flipped on UTSA at the very end. There was a couple of schools that I was talking to, SMU. I was talking to Louisiana Monroe. But the team, surprisingly, that I almost flipped for was UTEP.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Glad that didn't happen.
Well, here's the reason why. UTEP, they played the type of defense. Remember, I talked to you guys. I was talking earlier about the type of system to play in, and they were playing the type of coverages and things, and the type of defense that I wanted to play in. So I really considered them to the point to where they sent me a letter of intent on signing day. So I had 2 letters of intent, and I was like, I'd already had the hat, and I didn't tell my mom, but I did buy a UTEP hat.
Oh gosh, where is that UTEP hat now? Where is it? Do you still have it?
I trashed it.
Oh, okay, good. Good.
But,
what is that like? Like having 2, like not just 1, but 2 letters of intent. Like you playing football in high school, and then a college offers you, or at least plans to offer you something. What is that feeling like?
Dude, it's crazy, man. I'll tell you, it's like, especially like for me, I was like super grateful because I didn't have your typical like Division I athlete journey, right? Like like a lot of guys, so it was like 8 of us who signed Division I from my school at the time. Everybody else except one other guy had offers from their junior year. So to me, that was what was normal for Division I guys. They had offers from their junior year, and they, naturally kind of took some of it for granted. So for me, I was just super grateful to be to have options. I didn't give a shit about an option. I committed to UTSA. The second they offered me over the phone, they were like, "Well, just take a couple." I was like, "I don't want to take a couple."
Nope. I'll be there.
Right now, I'm coming to San Antonio.
That's awesome. So you mentioned your high school is from East Texas, and I don't know if it lined up or not, but I guess it would have. Did you ever play against Gilmer when Jeff Traylor was there?
No. So they were in a lower. So at the time, I think we were 5A. They were like 3A or something like that, 4A. But I knew some guys on that team. They had a really good quarterback for Coach Traylor named Darrien Godfrey. I actually played Pop Warner with him. He went on to play at New Mexico. He was a quarterback in New Mexico for a little bit. But Coach Traylor was a household name back then in East Texas. Like, we all knew who he was. Anytime there was a head coach in vacancy at one of the 5A schools, everybody were like, "Oh my God, if the guy from Gilmer goes there, they're going to be unstoppable."
Yeah. It's nice to see things don't change.
Have you met
in those conversations?
Have you met Traylor personally? Like, what type of coach is he to you?
Yeah, so I haven't like had any dialogue with him. I did meet him. I went up to they had like one of the alumni events at UTSA, and I went up there and met him there while I was touring the facility and stuff like that. He was a really nice guy. You can tell that the team really loves him. I think he's just down to earth. And I think that to me is the most important thing whenever you got a guy that's down to earth. You understand? I think about the story of when they talked about Deion Sanders and the kids came up. Oh, well, you have to do XYZ to actually have a conversation with him, right?
Right.
I think Coach Traylor just talking to guys and kind of hanging out. And he just seems like the kind of guy that is around and available, for folks. And I feel like that's how Coach Coker was with us. And then I know a lot of guys who played under Coach Wilson, and they had a very different experience with that, right? You had to talk to his assistant to be able to talk to him outside of the field. I just think that he's a humble guy who's really down to earth, and people are going to love him for it.
Yeah. And that kind of leads me into my next question. But what I will say about, I remember when UTSA hired Frank Wilson, I remember exactly where I was. I was still a student there. And we were like, oh, man, it's a guy from LSU coming. We're such a young program. This is awesome. But I think to your point, you could kind of see that I don't know if it was a leadership that wasn't there, or maybe the team just wasn't gelling. It wasn't like that team under Frank Wilson, extremely grateful for it. But you have a coach like Larry Coker or Jeff Traylor, and you're absolutely right that they just seem so down to earth and they're for the people. I'm not saying Frank Wilson wasn't like that. I never met him, but I can tell you, what I do want to know is, what was it like playing for Larry Coker, an absolute legend? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. One quick note first: Frank Wilson did not like me at all.
Now you can say
podcast. He hated the podcast.
Really?
Yeah. I met him. I shook his hand on the sideline one time, and he looked at me with such disgust. But
so he hated when did you start the podcast?
Oh, dude, I started the podcast probably I graduated the end of 2014. I started the podcast on the 2016 season. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you met him on the sideline, and he kind of knew already that was.
Oh yeah, he knew exactly who I was. Yeah. Gotcha. It was a known thing. Because I didn't like him, and I was open about that. And I know guys in that locker room listen to I knew some of the guys that played under him. And
that's awesome.
They would listen to. I knew they listened to the podcast, and he would listen to the podcast, and he's made some references to me before. So anyway, awesome. But no, on the Coach Coker question, yeah, man. Listen, that dude, Coach Coker. I don't know. It was like being able to hang with a superstar every day. He very much was a superstar, man. Everything around him just flowed properly, he was a great motivator. I think his presence motivated all of us. He was not really into the X's and O's of the game, to be honest.
Mm,
But he was more so managing the staff, managing the coaches, making sure.
right.
I mean, what I think was cool was like he chew the coaches out just as much as he'd chew us out. If he felt like there was a bad call, if he felt like a coach wasn't delivering, he didn't play any games. He let them know it right in front of everybody. Just as much. I mean, listen, I've had my fun on the sun with Coach Coker too. He's went at my neck pretty bad in front of everybody as well. So like that kind of thing is going to happen. But he was really great to play for. He was just so super down to earth. You want to talk about somebody. You want to talk about a coach whose door is always open. You can literally walk into Coach Coker's office if you're a player and just shoot the shit with him anytime you wanted to. He was not
awesome.
He was not too big, for anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, arguably the coach of like the greatest, what many people consider the greatest football team of all time in college. I mean, he coached Frank Gore, Willis McGahee, name a couple, but I've seen a bunch of pictures of him and like some social media stuff, and it seems like he's at these games a lot. I don't know if you still keep up with him or keep in contact, but does he seem really invested in the UTSA program?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's one of those things to where it's like he is invested, and like what's funny about Coach is like he'll randomly like one of my tweets.
Nice.
Like out of the blue.
That's a cool story to tell at the bar.
Yeah, it's like what the hell? Coach Coker is just like watching, like just seeing my Twitter, but he does that like he's still around, right? Like we all see and still sort of talk to him. Like I haven't seen him in a while. I seen him about a year and a half ago at UTSA. I was at the campus for another one of those football events, and he ended up being there. So it was good to kind of catch up and talk to him. And he still tells he like, and here's another thing that's really cool about him. Dude, he remembers the recruiting stories for everybody.
Wow.
So whenever he's told his story 1,000 times, but he always talks about the story. Every time he sees me, he talks about whenever he came to my house. So he did a recruiting visit to my house about a month before signing day. And we had played in the playoffs, and I happened to have the high school Texas Play of the Week. And totally unscripted, we're sitting down watching TV and eating food. And
I see where this is going.
They showed the highlight on TV, and Coach Coker said,
God.
"Was that you?" And
what a flex!
Like, yeah.
What a flex! Oh my
and
God!
He was like he talked about he talked about that for years, and I seen it a year and a half ago, and he loves telling that story, and it's cool, like little nuggets like that. And I wasn't a great player who went to the NFL or anything like that. But like he still remembers individual,
right? Exactly.
Like,
that's awesome.
And
that's like to me like a football coach. Like
right.
When you think like football coaches, like they remember the little stuff. And they'll scare the living daylights out of you. But man, like you want them in your corner when you're lined up against another team. But that's such a cool story, man. It's like you should have a podcast or something and tell these stories. It's like I had no idea.
Yeah. And so we talk about these success stories. You said you didn't get the chance to make it to the NFL. We recently had Corey Mayfield and Trevor Harmonson. It was announced they joined the UFL team, the San Antonio Brahmas. Since you were Darrien Starling, we have to know, did you have hopes of ever playing professionally?
I did 100%. Like that. That's what drove. It just drove me to get to college and play. I will say this though. I think I was probably like college football is hard, man. It is a true commitment, and I will say, and this is why I ended up not even participating in my pro day. By the time I got done with camp my senior year and we were going into the U of H game, I knew that I didn't want to play football after this season anymore.
Why was that?
I just thought like, I don't know if I could do this for the rest of my life.
I see.
Like,
yeah.
My body, dude, like my shoulders are both wrecked right now to this
Mm,
day. I have to
mm,
sleep a certain way so I'm not in pain.
mm.
I have like, fingers. My on my right, because I'm just playing corner. I'm jamming and stuff all the
Right.
time. Dude, my fingers on probably both hands are permanently jammed, like most
Oh
of
my
them.
gosh.
Yeah, my thumb on my right hand, it's just jammed. It's been jammed for 10 plus years.
Oh man.
And like so anyway, like there's so much of that type of stuff. And that was my senior year, the camp was really difficult, man.
Mm,
It was just stressful, position battles,
yeah.
and just like going through a grueling camp. I knew at that particular point in time, I didn't want to admit, and I feel like it was probably why I ended up having a pretty good senior season, is because I was kind of free.
Just laying it all out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, this is it. This is gonna be my last season. I'm not that worried about the end. Like if don't get it twisted. If I would have had like a bonkers season, of course I would have went through with like trying to go to the league and things like that. But like, I don't know, it was a very different experience for me. My folks, there was a lot of folks that were angry at me for not doing my pro day, but like, dude, I was done by that time.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
No.
Everybody has their different experiences.
And then I guess, was it your continued love for the game that got you inspired to do like content creation about football, about UTSA football? Like what was that whole thought process for you?
Yeah, I mean, dude, so I went to college for sports media. So that my degree is now what I do in my professional life has nothing to do with media, which is kind of weird. But yeah, it's something that I've always wanted to do. And I love the game, dude. I am a student of the game of football. I love the game of football. And when it comes to corners and position and technique and stuff like that, that's something I was really exceptional at. Technique, foot position, things like that. And I just kind of got obsessive with it. So I could never leave the game alone. Not enough. I had some coaching opportunities. I'm not interested in coaching, but I like to watch and talk shit about it. So that's why I started the podcast afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like that's us too. We're students of the game, and we like to talk shit about sports. So
yeah, I think, and especially just having like a podcast, like, and you cover a few different sports. I mean, just to be knowledgeable on this stuff, it takes a lot. I mean, there's like so many teams that you have to keep up with and storylines and whatnot, and how different teams play against each other. And we're still, we're constantly learning. And part of this reason we started this is just because we love sports so much. We cover the NBA and NFL, college football. But that kind of leads me to my next question about talking shit. And then one of the last times we talked shit was about the NIL and the transfer portal. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but you want to kind of let our viewers know, like, just what's your opinion on it? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think the NIL stuff is great for athletes. I will say that it's a really good thing for athletes. I'm also glad that they did the back pay for some folks, because like some of us got a check, and I got a little. We all got a little bit of a check.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
So I was like super happy.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But yeah, no, in all seriousness, I think that it's a great thing for college sports, because these colleges make all this money off these players, and they get nothing, right? Like, and I think one of the things that I am really passionate about, and I am actively trying to find a way for me to help out with this. But I think that because of the way athletes are sort of trained and what's embedded in their minds, man, they come out of college not prepared for the real world a lot of times, because all they know is football, all they know is their sport. So it kind of puts some athletes, they're kind of starting behind some of the regular students who didn't play football, because they're preparing for everyday life and what that life is. So I like that the NIL is giving them an opportunity to have some financial help and financial gain there. What I don't like is what I don't like about it is the transfer portal piece. I think they need to put some guardrails around that shit in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because they preach balance and we're gonna like expand the college playoff field so G5 teams could potentially win a national championship or whatever the case may be. Like they preach balance, but like they've introduced this NIL trans and then like the free all this transfer portal stuff that undermines that, because all that's going to do is allow the bigger schools to get all the top players,
Right.
and like remember how you had like your Travis Hunter saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to Jackson State." Like, yeah, we're not going to see that happen ever again.
No.
So like,
no.
yeah, I think there are some pros with it. I think for the athletes themselves, it's a great thing, but I think the transfer portal needs to be regulated in some way, because a lot of guys are going to fumble their bags chasing the short-term money, number one, which we've already seen some of that. And then number two, I just don't like the wild, wild west side of it, man. Like, I think I remember those days. Like, I like teams that you kind of grow to love. And like, you're used to seeing this guy come up, and this team, the core of this team has been together for 3 years. You think about the USC Trojans back in like the what was it, 04, 05 or whatever, when you had like Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lindale White, and the crew. And then you look at those UT teams with the Griffin brothers, the Vince Youngs, and Jamal Charles even played with them. These guys are there for a few years at a time. So like, these teams like are embedded in your mind. It draws you into college football, makes you love it more, and makes you watch it more. And now you got people like, your team is going to look different, completely different next year,
right?
Because people are just hopping everywhere. Like, I don't know, it's kind of losing me a little bit.
Yeah, because let's say you liked, I don't know, like Andrew Luck, but it becomes a lot weirder when you're talking about, okay, I loved Andrew Luck playing for my team, and then Andrew Luck then went on to play for Texas Tech, and then Andrew Luck went on to play for USC after that. And, it's kind of just like weird the way it's all working out.
It's a different team every year. And I think Jeff Traylor even said that. He's like, we basically prepare now like I'm coaching this team this year, and next year is going to be a completely different team. And I think I saw in one of your YouTube videos, Darrien, is that you brought up a good point that you're used to seeing a lot of these stars break out on like these lower name teams, and just kind of put their whole school on their back, and elevate their school. But you're not gonna see that much anymore. And I think there's one side like the NIL that should definitely be there when the school makes a ton of money and builds new stadiums and whatnot. The players should get a piece of that. But yeah, something has to be done about the transfer portal, because it's just gonna widen the gap even more. I will say that did you want to comment on that? Or?
No, I was just saying 100%.
Yeah. That kind of leads me to like my next and last question I have for you. Kind of looking at the stars a little bit. Jeff Traylor has talked about this a couple of times in some of his interviews, but with all this considered, what do you think UTSA needs to do to compete at a P5 level? And would you put a timeline on when UTSA gets into a P5 conference?
I think that, a timeline, I think, is going to be a while. I'd say, I even think 5 years is too soon, but I'd say it'll probably happen. If we can I think the longer we keep Traylor, the more and more enticing we're going to be to bigger conferences, because we're going to keep winning. Right. But I think right now, I think that what's going to drive that is how much money can we generate. And I'm not just talking about NIL collectives, but actually, how many asses are we going to be putting in seats? So there's requirements there that we're going to have to meet. And that's going to require the city getting behind UTSA a lot more than they are, and getting those attendance numbers up. And then also, UT, like I think JJ made a good point on my show yesterday. He talked about, us trying to get the city's support, and the reason why UTSA can't offer discounts, because we're not getting enough people to come to the games. So that just kind of shows that we have to generate more money. And I think once we get someone, I'm gonna tell you this, and I'm this sucks because I really hate to be like this, but like I think that we're going to, before any of that happens, we're going to have to probably switch ADs. And I don't think I don't want to, I'm not trying to be like too harsh toward Lisa Campos, but I think UTSA has grown faster than anybody could have imagined.
Yeah.
And I think right now she is sort of fighting the winds of folks like questioning her job because, there's not enough transparency, to the fan base on what's being done to put butts in seats and to fundraise, right? I think if some of the higher ups in the administration are going to want to position ourselves to start making some of these leaps to maybe, looking at new conferences and things like that, we're going to have to bring someone in who is an expert at fundraising, who's an expert at getting these financial resources. Coach Traylor shouldn't have to be, whining about a indoor facility for years, right? If we have an expert fundraiser. So I don't know exactly how long this stuff is going to take, but I think there's going to have to be some significant dominoes to fall before we get there.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes you think, like, I mean, San Antonio is not a small city at all. I mean, it makes you think, like, why doesn't Valero get involved, or like Frost Bank or USAA with their big headquarters here? There's money in the city, but you're absolutely right. And it's kind of like a business now. Like, college football is a business. And Kyle said that before in our past episodes. It's going to take somebody in the administration who can raise money and just continuously generate positive cash flow, where Jeff Traylor can have the resources he needs to get enough fans and seats and to get an indoor practice facility and whatnot. But I think there's opportunity there. I'm excited to see. I know his sights are set on P5. I tell you right now, Jeff Traylor does not want to stay in a Group of 5 conference. I think his sights are set on Power 5.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I agree with that too. And I think, listen, him taking those interviewing jobs or those interviews at U of H and at A&M there are some people who are speculating like, oh, he was just doing that to put like UTSA brass and the UTSA administration on notice. No, he was not.
You think he was serious about those jobs?
Hell yes, absolutely. If A&M would have offered him that damn job, he'd been fucking singing the Aggie blues.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right.
Hell yeah, same with U of H. Like he would have like the U of H one kind of stings because I'm like, we're not that far from them. Like, I mean, we are, but like,
it's attainable.
Like I can see that in our future in the next 5 years or so, right? We ain't catching A&M, so that one I wouldn't blame for. But the U of H one, I was like, oh, so he's really trying to get the fuck out. Like, oh,
right.
So like, it's like, he's doing that because he doesn't have the financial backing that he wants. He wants to compete on the big time level. He is that type of a coach, and I'm not saying he's not loyal to UTSA, but he's going to be loyal to he's going to be loyal to UTSA, but he's always going to be more loyal to his family and his wishes, personal wishes. And that man probably has a dream to win a national championship one day, and he's probably going to seek those opportunities if he's not 1,000% happy with what's going on with his current situation. And right now, he's not happy with the money. That's all he talks about. Think about it. Every time we see him get in front of a camera, they put a microphone in his face. What is he talking about? Money.
Yeah. Yep. You're absolutely right. I think 2 things are helping us possibly retain him. In addition to that, one, you're absolutely right. He always talks about how much him and his wife love it here in the city, and I think that was a big, not variable, but a big, I guess, piece of the puzzle too. Was Mrs. Trailer felt, living in San Antonio, and would she want to move to College Station? I have no idea, but every time he talks, it really sounds like they do love it here. And the other thing too, just the type of coach he is, I feel like if he went to A&M, like that job comes with so much political and bureaucratic and like democratic or like diplomatic moves, and like just, I guess, business acumen you have to have from like a political and like an administration standpoint. It's like, you're not just going to be coaching there. You're going to be talking to a ton of alum. You're going to have to be doing and saying all the right things whenever you get in front of a camera, whenever you're talking to the fan base, whenever you're talking to the AD. Like, it's way more than just coaching over there. It is. I think that too. I personally, I think he really just likes to coach. I could be wrong, but UTSA offers that here. He doesn't have to be really diplomatic anytime he steps in front of a camera per se. He can say, "Hey, we need money." A&M, he may not be able to say that some things.
Well,
I don't know.
But you know what though? Like to that point, I agree with you. But like, I think part of what is frustrating him right now is that he is sort of having to get into some of the bureaucratic discussions because he does have to talk about money so much.
He does now.
He is in front of the donors. I can tell you this. I have talked to some important people not too long ago about the situation around the financial side of it. I am trying not to expose anyone as I navigate this, but
that's fine.
I will say that, listen, they are trying to do everything they can to get Traylor what he wants.
Right.
But this is kind of when I go back to the AD side of things. I have heard that there has not been enough urgency shown, and that has people really frustrated about some of the things that's been going on. And there's a lot more to some of that, but like, guys, these Coach, listen, everybody's in agreement that Coach Traylor is the guy that we want to keep.
Yeah.
Everybody is also very, very aware, especially what he did by taking those job interviews. They're very, very aware that like, if shit doesn't change, he's gonna walk.
Right.
And you can't blame him.
Right.
So like, there is a group of people who are urgently trying to fix some of this, and urgently trying to do their best to like, create resources. But I can tell you that there are some people who feel like the administration is not holding up.
Just kind of dragging their feet. Yeah. I can see that from the outside looking in. It seems like one thing I will say too, before we end it, I think this is going to be the first season potentially where Jeff Traylor will be coaching a Jeff Traylor, I guess, recruited team. I don't know if there's any more guys left from the Frank Wilson era. In addition to that, he has a lot of history with the McCown family. I think he has a lot of faith, or there's a lot of opportunity ahead with Owen McCown. So I am personally really looking forward to Owen McCown. I was talking about him a lot early on when Frank Harris was out for injuries. Eddie Marburger is a great quarterback, but we do need another competitive quarterback, preferably a veteran, entering our team. So I'm excited to see what this next season is going to bring. Whatever it is, the 8-9 months until the next season is way too long. I don't know what I'm going to do until then, but I'm looking forward to it either way.
Yeah, and we're going to be farming the content off of that all season long for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that was really great. Thanks for answering all of our questions and everything. Frankie, did you have anything else?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So we're doing this thing now where every guest we have on is going to give us one song from their workout playlist or something they listen to in the locker room right before a game when they get hyped up. We have a few songs already on our playlist. Darrien,
what is your go-to game day song?
It's a really good question.
We're building an ultimate playlist, and we'll leave the link on the Spotify pretty soon here.
Oh man, okay. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, man. It's tough.
Go
It's tough to
ahead.
think.
This is a good one. I don't want to screw this up.
Because
you're
this
one of
will
our
be
first guests. So.
this will be immortalized in the ultimate
Yeah.
Waterboys game day playlist. So.
You're one of our first guests. You still have a lot of open songs that haven't been picked yet.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm trying to think of something. I'm looking at
go
my
ahead.
phone right now.
Go ahead, man.
I want to use something that I was listening to back in the day.
I'm pumped to hear to just kind of see how our playlist evolves. Kyle, what do you think? I'm gonna be working out to it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Once we get a few more guests on here, it's gonna be
it's gonna be a fire playlist.
No skips.
You know what? I'm gonna give you it's an old one.
Okay.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
It's a really old one actually. Well, I'm gonna give you two. I will listen to these before. Fucking hell. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna give you guys.
It can be anything.
Yeah. So all right, I'm gonna go. Upgrade You. No Ceilings on the No Ceilings. From Lil Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a crazy Wayne fan back then.
Yep.
And then Bill Gates.
Okay.
It's by Lil Wayne also. It's on the I Am Not a Human Being album.
So Lil Wayne was your guy.
Oh yeah, that was back when he was on top. Like
yeah,
he was on top. I was a Weezy fan for sure.
Hey, I don't blame you. My song I picked is super cliche, but I love it. Is Right Above It by Lil Wayne.
Yeah. That's on the same I Am Not a Human. Yeah, I definitely had that one in the rotation.
Yep, that one's always queued up for me.
100%.
But man, I think those are all the questions we had. We definitely appreciate you coming on the show. Yeah. It was I was studying your stuff and looking at your content, trying to prepare. I did not want to mess up. UTSA, fix his bio right now, please. Man, thank you again for coming on, and we're definitely looking forward to future guest episodes. And if you want to have us dumbasses on your episode too, if you have nobody else, hey man, we're here for you. So always appreciate when a Roadrunner helps out, and we're always definitely willing to help out any Roadrunner. For
sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This was really fun. I'm definitely going to tap you guys on the shoulder to do some content sometime this year.
Man.
Once I get my content calendar going. So I'm definitely going to have you guys on. But I appreciate it. And I salute you guys for joining the journey and getting on the podcast wave. It's going to be a long, hard journey, but I'm sure you guys will prevail, man.
Heck yeah, dude. I got bored playing Fortnite, so I had to do something else.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, you know, make sure you're tapping in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything. That was Darrien Starling, everyone. And with that, we're out.